Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another exciting and effective episode of Code Your English. Let me start with a simple thought. Many of us wake up tired, not in the body, but in the mind. We haven't run a marathon. We haven't done anything physically difficult. And yet, before the day even begins, our thoughts already feel heavy. There's a strange kind of mental noise in the background. Quiet, constant, and easy to ignore. This feeling has become so normal that we rarely stop to question it. Modern life doesn't usually attack us in obvious ways. There's no loud alarm, no clear danger sign. Instead, it works slowly and invisibly. From the moment we open our eyes, information starts coming in. Messages, headlines, short videos, expectations, comparisons, all of it enters the brain without asking for permission. None of these things feel dangerous on their own, but together, day after day, they create pressure. Not dramatic pressure, but steady pressure, and the brain absorbs it. What makes this even more interesting is that much of this pressure is self-inflicted. We choose to scroll. We choose to stay connected all the time. We choose to answer one more message, watch one more video, or check one more notification. Of course, we don't do this because we are weak or careless. We do it because we are human. We want to feel informed, included, and in control. But without noticing it, we slowly train our brains to stay alert all the time, never fully resting. Never fully focusing. This is why the word attack matters here, but not in a dramatic way. This is not about fear, panic, or conspiracy. It's about awareness. When something happens quietly and repeatedly, it often has the strongest effect. Your brain is not broken. It's not failing you. It's responding exactly as it was designed to respond. The problem is the environment it lives in, and the habits we repeat without thinking. Have you ever felt mentally tired even on a day when you didn't do much? Have you ever reached the end of the day and wondered where your energy went? That feeling is worth paying attention to, not to judge yourself and not to feel guilty, but to become curious. Because awareness is the first step toward change. And once you start noticing what's happening in your mind, you've already begun to take back a little control. What do we mean by under attack? When we say that the brain is under attack, it's important to slow down and clarify what that really means. This is not about danger in the traditional sense. There is no enemy, no sudden threat, and no dramatic moment where everything goes wrong. The attack we're talking about is quiet, continuous, and very ordinary. It shows up in small ways, repeated every day, until they become part of our normal mental experience. Think about how often your attention is interrupted. Even when you want to focus, something pulls your mind away. A sound, a thought, a message, or simply the habit of checking your phone. Your brain jumps from one thing to another, rarely staying in one place for long. This constant movement creates pressure. Not physical pressure, but mental pressure. Over time, your ability to focus deeply becomes weaker. Not because you are incapable, but because your brain is always reacting instead of choosing. Information overload plays a big role here. We receive more news, opinions, and updates in one day than people in the past received in weeks or even months. The brain was never designed to process this much input at such speed. Headlines appear and disappear. Videos start playing automatically. Conversations happen at the same time across different platforms. There is no natural pause. Even silence feels uncomfortable now. so we fill it with noise. Speed is another part of this invisible attack. Everything is fast. We expect quick answers, quick results, and quick success. When progress takes time, we feel frustrated. When learning feels slow, we doubt ourselves. This creates internal pressure that never fully leaves the mind. Instead of thinking deeply, we skim. Instead of reflecting, we react. And slowly, the brain forgets how to rest inside one thought. Then there is constant comparison. Without trying, we see other people's achievements, lifestyles, and opinions every day. Most of these images are edited, filtered, or carefully selected, but the brain doesn't always remember that. It compares automatically. Why am I not there yet? Why is my progress slower? These questions don't mean you are weak. They mean your brain is surrounded by unrealistic reference points. This is why it's important to say this clearly. Your brain isn't broken. It's overwhelmed. It's doing its best to survive in an environment that demands attention all the time. Feeling distracted, tired, or mentally scattered is not a personal failure. It's a signal that your mind needs space, not more pressure. So let me ask you something simple, but not easy. When was the last time your mind was truly quiet? Not asleep, not distracted, just calm and present. If it's hard to remember, that's not a problem. It's information. And once you notice it, you've already taken an important step toward understanding what's really happening inside your mind. The attention economy. Everyone wants a piece of your mind. Let's talk about something that quietly shapes our daily lives. The attention economy. This idea sounds complex, but it's actually very simple. Your attention is valuable. Wherever your attention goes, your time, energy, and even your emotions follow. Because of that, many companies don't just sell products anymore. They compete for your focus. Every notification, every alert, every new piece of content is designed to pull your mind in one direction, even if only for a few seconds. Social media is one of the clearest examples. Platforms are built to keep you scrolling, tapping, and watching. There is always something new, something emotional, or something surprising. You may open an app with a clear intention, but within moments, that intention disappears. The content decides what comes next. Your brain reacts, one image at a time, one headline at a time, without a chance to slow down and choose. You've probably experienced this yourself. You check your phone for just 1 minute. Maybe you want to reply to a message or check one notification. Then you see another post, and another. A video starts playing. You tell yourself, just one more. When you finally look up, 20 minutes are gone. Nothing dramatic happened, but your focus quietly slipped away. This is not an accident. These platforms are carefully designed around human habits and weaknesses. Notifications play a big role in this process. A small sound or vibration is enough to break concentration. Even when you don't check your phone, your brain becomes alert. Part of your attention stays on standby, waiting for the next interruption. Over time, this creates a habit of distraction. You stop fully focusing because your mind expects to be interrupted at any moment. What's important to understand here is that distraction is not a personal flaw. It's a trained response. When the brain is rewarded with likes, messages, or new information, it learns quickly. It starts to seek stimulation automatically. This is where awareness becomes powerful. Once you see how your habits are shaped, you realize that attention is not something you lose. It's something that is taken, little by little, when you are not paying attention to it. Focus, on the other hand, requires intention. It doesn't happen by accident. In a world full of distractions, choosing what to focus on becomes an active decision. Without that decision, your mind moves wherever it is pushed. You may feel busy all day, but at the end of it, you're not sure what you actually did or why you feel so tired. The attention economy doesn't mean technology is evil, or that you must avoid it completely. These tools can be useful, creative, and even educational. The real issue is unconscious use. When you use technology without intention, it uses you instead. And over time, this affects not only your productivity, but also your mood, your confidence, and your ability to think clearly. So here's a question worth sitting with for a moment. When you look at your day, do you choose what you focus on? Or does something else choose for you? There's no right or wrong answer. The goal is not guilt. The goal is awareness. Because once you become aware of where your attention goes, you can begin to guide it back to what truly matters to you. Internal enemies: self-doubt, perfectionism, and mental noise. Up to now, we've talked about pressure coming from the outside: apps, notifications, noise, and constant distraction. But there is another kind of pressure that can be even stronger, because it lives inside us. Sometimes the loudest attack doesn't come from the world around you. It comes from your own thoughts. This is where self-doubt, perfectionism, and mental noise quietly take control. Negative self-talk often sounds reasonable, which makes it dangerous. It doesn't shout. It whispers. You're not ready yet. You're not good enough. Others are doing better than you. These thoughts feel personal, almost logical, but they slowly damage confidence. Over time, they create a mindset where you question every step you take. Instead of moving forward, you pause. Instead of trying, you wait for the right moment, which rarely arrives. Fear of mistakes is closely connected to this. Many adults carry the idea that mistakes are something to be ashamed of. This is especially true when learning a new skill, like English. You may understand the grammar. You may know the words. But when it's time to speak, your mind freezes. Not because you can't speak, but because you're afraid of sounding foolish, slow, or incorrect. The brain chooses silence because silence feels safer than failure. Perfectionism often hides behind positive intentions. You want to do things well. You want to be accurate. You want to sound fluent, confident, and clear. But perfectionism has a dark side. It raises the standard so high that starting feels impossible. You tell yourself you'll begin when you feel more prepared, more confident, or more fluent. Days pass. Weeks pass. And the goal stays exactly where it was, untouched. This is how procrastination is born. Not from laziness, but from pressure. The mind becomes crowded with expectations, rules, and imagined judgments. This creates mental noise. Thoughts overlap. Doubts repeat themselves. The brain spends more energy thinking about the task than actually doing it. By the end of the day, you feel tired, but you haven't moved forward. What's important to understand is that these internal enemies don't mean something is wrong with you. They are learned patterns. Many of us were taught to avoid mistakes, to be careful, and to protect our image. But growth doesn't work that way. Progress comes from action, not from perfect preparation. Confidence is built after you start, not before. When learning English, or working toward any personal goal, mistakes are not a sign of failure. They are evidence of effort. Every time you speak imperfectly, your brain learns. Every time you feel uncomfortable, but continue anyway, you grow stronger. The real danger is not saying the wrong thing. The real danger is staying silent because you're waiting to be perfect. So take a moment to reflect honestly. Have you ever delayed starting something important because you wanted everything to be perfect? Have you ever waited for confidence instead of building it through action? If the answer is yes, you're not alone. Awareness of this pattern is not weakness. It's the first step toward quieting the noise and giving your mind the permission to move forward, imperfectly but freely. Stress, speed, and the loss of deep thinking. One of the quiet effects of modern life is how fast everything feels. We move quickly from one task to another, often without finishing the first one properly. Multitasking has become normal. We answer messages while listening to a podcast, check emails while eating, and scroll through content while thinking about work. On the surface, it looks like efficiency. But inside the mind, it creates stress. The brain is constantly switching, adjusting, and reacting without enough time to rest or reflect. This constant speed changes how we think. When everything moves fast, we stop going deep. We skim instead of reading. We listen, but we don't fully hear. We respond quickly, but we don't always think clearly. Deep thinking requires time and patience, and both feel rare now. Even when we try to slow down, the habit of rushing stays in the background, pushing us forward before we are ready. Many people say they feel busy all the time, yet strangely unfulfilled. The days are full, but at the end of the week, it's hard to point to real progress. This happens because being busy is not the same as moving forward. Activity can feel productive, but without direction, it leads to mental exhaustion rather than growth. The brain spends energy managing tasks instead of building understanding or meaning. This is especially visible in how we consume information today. Fast content is everywhere. Short videos, quick tips, and simple answers promise instant improvement. Learn this in 5 minutes. Fix that in 3 steps. While these formats can be helpful, they often replace slow learning instead of supporting it. Real growth, whether in language learning or personal development, takes repetition, reflection, and time. There are no shortcuts for depth. Think about reading, for example. Long articles, books, or thoughtful essays require sustained attention. They ask you to stay with one idea for a while. But many of us notice that reading has become harder. The mind wants to jump. It feels uncomfortable to stay still with one text. The same is true for deep listening and long conversations. We interrupt more. We think about our response instead of truly listening. Something valuable is lost in that speed. Stress grows quietly in this environment. Not the kind of stress that comes from a big problem, but a low-level pressure that never leaves. The brain rarely gets a moment to slow down and connect ideas. Reflection becomes a luxury instead of a habit. And without reflection, it's hard to understand what really matters or where you're going. In learning English, this often shows up as impatience. You want quick results. You want fluency now. When progress feels slow, frustration appears. But language learning is naturally slow because the brain needs time to absorb patterns, sounds, and meaning. Fast content can support learning, but it cannot replace deep practice and consistent effort. So it's worth asking yourself an honest question. Are you busy, or are you actually moving forward? Are your days full of activity, or are they building something meaningful over time? Slowing down doesn't mean doing less. It means doing fewer things with more attention. And in a world that constantly pushes speed, choosing depth becomes a powerful act of mental strength. How this affects your confidence, decisions, and growth. When the mind is under constant pressure, the effects don't stay only in your thoughts. They slowly move into your decisions, your confidence, and your sense of growth. One of the first signs is how difficult simple decisions become. Choices that once felt easy now feel heavy. You think too much, compare too many options, and worry about making the wrong move. The brain, already overloaded, tries to protect you by avoiding decisions altogether. This can look like careful thinking, but often it's fear mixed with exhaustion. Confidence is closely connected to mental clarity. When your mind is calm, you trust yourself more. When it's crowded and tired, self-doubt grows. You start questioning your abilities, even in areas where you already have experience. Small setbacks feel bigger than they really are. Instead of seeing them as part of the process, you take them personally. Over time, this slowly weakens your belief in your own progress. Emotional fatigue is another common result. This is not the kind of tiredness that sleep can easily fix. You may rest physically, but still feel drained emotionally. The mind is constantly processing information, expectations, and worries. There is little space left for joy, curiosity, or creativity. You continue doing what you need to do, but without energy or excitement. Life starts to feel heavy, even when nothing dramatic is happening. I remember a moment when I noticed this in myself. I was working hard, staying busy, and trying to improve in many areas at once. On paper, everything looked fine. But inside, I felt stuck. I was tired all the time, easily irritated, and unsure about my direction. One evening, I realized that my brain had no quiet space anymore. It was always solving problems, reacting to messages, or planning the next step. That's when it became clear that this wasn't just about productivity. It was about mental and emotional health. When the brain doesn't get enough rest and focus, growth slows down. You may be putting in effort, but the results don't match your expectations. This creates frustration. You feel like you're moving, but not arriving anywhere. Over time, this feeling of being stuck can become part of your identity. You stop expecting progress, and that belief becomes a barrier on its own. This is especially true when learning a language or building a long-term skill. Progress is often invisible in the short term. If your mind is already overloaded, it becomes harder to notice small improvements. You may stop trusting the process, even if you are doing the right things. The problem is not your ability. It's the condition of your mind while you're trying to grow. Brain health and emotional health are deeply connected. When your mind feels safe, clear, and supported, confidence naturally follows. When it feels under attack, even strong people begin to doubt themselves. This doesn't mean you're failing. It means something needs attention, not pressure. So take a quiet moment and ask yourself honestly, what area of your life feels blocked right now? And why? Is it really a lack of effort? Or is it mental overload? The answer may not be comfortable, but it can be the beginning of real change. Small acts of mental resistance, practical but gentle. After talking about pressure, overload, and mental fatigue, it's important to pause and bring in a sense of hope. Not the kind of hope that promises a perfect life or instant change, but a quieter, more realistic hope. You don't need to fight your brain or completely change your life. Small acts of mental resistance, done gently and consistently, can slowly bring balance back. The first step is awareness, not control. Many people try to fix their minds by forcing discipline or strict rules. That usually doesn't last. Awareness is softer, but stronger. It means noticing what's happening in your mind without judging it. Noticing when you are distracted. Noticing when you feel overwhelmed. Noticing when your thoughts become negative or rushed. This simple act of noticing already creates space. You stop being inside the problem and start observing it. From awareness, small habits can grow naturally. These habits don't need to be dramatic. A short pause before checking your phone. A few quiet minutes without noise. A moment to breathe before reacting. These pauses may seem insignificant, but they tell your brain that it doesn't have to run all the time. Over time, these moments of rest improve focus and emotional stability. Boundaries are another gentle form of resistance. Boundaries are not punishments. They are acts of respect toward your mind. This could mean not checking messages first thing in the morning. It could mean turning off unnecessary notifications. It could mean choosing one task and giving it full attention instead of multitasking. Each boundary sends a clear message. My attention matters. Mindset also plays a key role here. Instead of asking, how can I fix everything? A healthier question is, what supports my progress? This shift reduces pressure and increases patience. Growth doesn't require intensity. It requires consistency. Small actions repeated over time are far more powerful than big efforts that don't last. This is especially important when learning English or developing any long-term skill. Studying for 10 minutes every day with intention is often more effective than studying for 2 hours once a week with stress. The brain learns best in calm, repeated exposure. Consistency builds trust, trust in the process, and trust in yourself. Reflection is another simple but powerful habit. Taking a few minutes at the end of the day to ask, what went well, or what drained my energy, helps the brain organize experience. It turns life into learning. Without reflection, days pass without meaning. With reflection, even small moments become valuable. Progress, in this way, becomes quieter but deeper. You may not feel dramatic change right away, but you begin to feel more stable, more present, and more capable. Mental resistance is not about fighting the world. It's about protecting your inner space so you can grow within it. So here's a gentle question to leave you with. What is one small change your brain would thank you for? Not a big plan, not a perfect routine. Just one small act of care, repeated with intention. Sometimes, that's all it takes to begin moving forward again. Reclaiming your mind in an imperfect world. Reclaiming your mind does not mean running away from the modern world. You don't need to delete every app, move to a quiet place, or live a completely different life. That idea sounds attractive, but it's not realistic for most people. The modern world is where we work, learn, communicate, and grow. The real challenge is not escape. It's learning how to live in this world more consciously, with awareness instead of exhaustion. A healthier relationship with your mind begins with acceptance. Acceptance does not mean giving up or lowering your standards. It means understanding that pressure, distraction, and stress will sometimes be part of your life. There will be days when your focus is weak, when motivation disappears, and when old habits return. These moments are not failures. They are reminders that growth is not a straight line. Setbacks are part of every meaningful process. Whether you are learning English, building confidence, or changing habits, progress moves in waves. Some days you feel clear and focused. Other days you feel tired and scattered. The mistake many people make is judging themselves too harshly during the difficult days. They see temporary struggle as permanent weakness, but setbacks don't erase progress. They reveal where patience and care are still needed. Relating to the world more consciously means making choices, even small ones, instead of living on automatic mode. It means noticing when something drains your energy and when something restores it. It means using technology as a tool, not as a constant companion. Conscious living is not about control over everything. It's about responsibility for what you can influence. This is where the key idea becomes clear. Control is limited, but responsibility is not. You cannot control every message, demand, or distraction. You cannot slow down the world, but you can take responsibility for how you respond. You can choose when to pause. You can choose what deserves your attention. You can choose kindness toward your own mind, even when life feels noisy. When you stop trying to control everything, something interesting happens. The mind relaxes, energy returns, decisions feel lighter. You stop fighting yourself and start working with yourself. This creates space for growth that feels natural, not forced. In learning and personal development, this mindset is powerful. You stop chasing perfection and start building sustainability. You accept that some days are for progress and some days are for rest. Both are necessary. Over time, this balance creates resilience, the ability to continue, even when conditions are not ideal. So take a moment to reflect. What does a healthier relationship with your mind look like for you? Does it mean more rest, more focus, or more self-trust? There is no single answer. But the moment you begin asking this question honestly, you move closer to reclaiming your mental space, not by escaping the world, but by standing firmly within it, with awareness and intention. As we come to the end of this episode, let's slow down for a moment and gently gather everything we've talked about. Your brain is not weak. It is not failing you. It is simply living in a world that constantly asks for more attention, more speed, and more reaction. The pressure you feel is not a personal flaw. It is a human response to an environment that rarely allows the mind to rest. Understanding this changes everything. The most important idea to remember is simple but powerful. Awareness is the first victory. Before habits change, before focus improves, before confidence grows, there is awareness. The moment you notice what is happening in your mind, you are no longer fully controlled by it. You step back, you create space, and in that space, choice becomes possible. This journey is not about doing more or pushing harder. It's about listening. Listening to your energy, your emotions, and your limits. Growth does not come from constant pressure. It comes from care, consistency, and patience. When you protect your mental space, you protect your ability to learn, to grow, and to connect with others. This is especially true when learning English. Language learning is not just about words and grammar. It's about confidence, courage, and repetition. A calm mind learns better. A supported brain remembers more. When you stop attacking yourself for mistakes and start seeing them as steps forward, progress becomes lighter and more natural. Your English improves not because you force it, but because you allow it. Here at Code. Your English, the goal is not perfection. The goal is progress with awareness. Every time you listen, reflect, or practice, you are training more than your language skills. You are training your attention. You are teaching your brain that slow, focused growth is safe and valuable. So I invite you to take a quiet moment after this episode. No pressure, no big promises, just reflection. Ask yourself what your mind truly needs right now. Maybe it needs rest, maybe it needs focus, maybe it needs kindness. Whatever the answer is, respect it. That respect is an act of strength. And here's the final question to carry with you. Now that you see the attack, how will you protect what matters most? Not with fear, not with control, but with awareness, intention, and care. If this episode helped you reflect, share it with someone who might need it too. And keep showing up for your growth, one calm step at a time.